Hey everyone, and welcome to the MIA log. In this video I'm going to be comparing these three lovely devices. To kick off with, let's go over pricing. So these two cost the same when I bought it, which was at $10.99, and then this one when I bought it was at $9.90. So pretty much £100 difference between this one and these two. Now as for specifications, we have both of these here with an 11th gen Intel i7 processor, which are the H series processor, and these are both running RTX 3070s. On the Dell over here, this is running a 12th generation i7 processor, H series again, but it's running a RTX 3060. So not as powerful as the 3070s in here, but it does have a more powerful processor, or a more efficient processor. So just to let you all know, in the criteria that I'm going to be marking these devices on are right here. And without wasting any time, let's get right into the video. In this video, I'm going to place them first, second and third, so you know which one is top trumping the other. And then what we'll do at the end of it, we'll add it all up and then we'll give them all a score, and then you'll know what I rate as my first choice, my second choice, and then finally my third choice. So at some points they might all draw. If they all draw, then what they'll do is they'll all get 3 points each. So if they come in first position, they get 3 points, second position 2 points, and then last position they only get 1 point. I just realised I'm going to have to make a note of all of this because there's no way I'm remembering all of this. I'm doing this unscripted, by the way. So I'm just going to kind of go with it from what I remember of using the devices. And I have been using these devices for a very long time. So here's my pen. And I'm just going to make a note of how I'm going on. Like I said, this is all going to be unscripted. I'm just going to kind of just let it all off my chest as it is, as I know it, because I've been using this for about a month and a half, this for a month and a half, and this for a month and a half. So they've all got the same amount of playtime from me. So number one, build quality. Now, build quality really across the board is pretty much all the same. They're all built pretty well. I'm really happy with pretty much all the build qualities. And if I'm honest with you, the one that has just that slightly edge build quality over the rest, and that's just on the materials used and the sturdiness of it, as you can just see here as I'm doing this all, in terms of the flex it has on the screen. You can see that the Dell has the least amount of flex on the screen. It feels really good. They're all made out of pretty much plastic, except for this MSI here. It's got this really nice texture on it, which I really like, and I'm not sure what it is. I should have really googled it, but it's got like a rubbery soft texture on it, which is really nice. And I really like the way the logo is placed onto here, kind of seamless. In terms of design, this is probably the most incognito one as well, but build quality, I'd have to give them all a draw. In build quality, they all tie. Build quality is pretty much all the same. This one, the Dell G series, just has that slightly stiffer lid, but that's pretty much it. Other than that, the build quality is pretty much all the same. Now moving on to performance. Now performance is a key area, and performance has multiple other factors that go into it. So for example, it will factor in how well it did with the heat management, how well it did with managing certain tasks set to it. So this overall score that I'm going to place onto these devices is based on those other factors as well, but I do rate those other factors individually in my categories of scoring as well. But when it comes to performance, I was very impressed with the 12th generation H series processor inside this Dell G series. And even though these two have the exact same processor inside and the exact same graphics card and pretty much the exact same storage and RAM built into them as well, the Acer outperformed the MSI. So my only thing that I'm questioning here is between these two devices, which one would I go for? And the fact that this is an 11th gen processor with a 3070 and this has a 12th gen processor with a 3060, I'm kind of torn between the two. So on the basis of that, I really can't decide between these two devices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to award both of these the first position because they both win in their own right and they both perform very well. They both cost the same. One has a newer processor, one has a better graphics card. You can argue what's more important to you. But in last position, I'm going to put this MSI. Now, because these two are drawing in first position, I'll give these 3 points each, and what I'll do is I'll give the MSI a second position 2 points, even though I really do want to give it a 1 point because of how disappointed I was with the performance of this device. Now, the visual experience. So the visual experience, I'm going to add the audio experience into this as well, because that's kind of part of the visual experience is audio as well. So in terms of audio experience, which one was it? I believe it was the Acer. I'm just going to quickly look inside. Yes, it was the Acer. So this device in here has something called immersive gaming audio. Now, this had the worst sounding audio out of all three. And I don't mean marginally worse. I mean, there was a huge gap between how bad this device sounded, considering it's got this immersive gaming audio. Now, when you plug in the headphones, it's really good. But then if you plug in headphones to any laptop, you pretty much get a good experience. This does have additional things like Nahimic 3D audio, which is what they're referring to in this. But if you're playing on this laptop without anything plugged into it, meaning headphones, it sounds So visual experience, including the audio experience, this is going last. I'm going to give the second position to the MSI. It's got good sounding audio, not great, but it still sounds much better than the Acer does, and you get a much better experience overall when it comes to watching something or even playing your games out loud rather than with headphones on. Although, you know, when you're playing games, you should really have headphones on anyway because you can hear everything, but that's more like competitive gaming. You need all that experience. But if you're just playing a normal one-player game or single-player game or RPG game, then you don't really need headphones, and then that's when you really want or really could use the device with using the built-in speakers. So hence why that's getting a last, this is getting a second, and this is getting a first position because it has the best sounding audio out of all three devices. Not only that, it's got built-in applications on here to actually give you a better visual experience when you're watching content as well. Now, I couldn't rate them on their hertz because they're all performing at 144 hertz. But in terms of when you're not gaming and when you're just using the device to watch some content or anything, that's how the positioning will stand. Third, second, first. Moving on to the next criteria, built for purpose. So these devices are built for gamers, and in that purpose, they all perform very well. However, the MSI is getting last position again, because when it came to actually playing games on these devices, the MSI was giving me the lowest FPS. Not only that, when I've done the battery rundown test on it, it gave me the worst performance, and it seemed to reach throttling point a lot quicker than the other two as well. Now in second position, I'm going to place the Dell here because it's got the 3060 in here, and I know it's got the i7 12th generation processor, but that 3060, when it comes to gaming, the Acer just had that slight edge to it. It's just able to handle the performance of online gaming, competitive gaming, that little bit better. So it's a very tight call for these two devices in this category, which is the built for purpose, which is gaming. So between these two, super close, and the MSI, not even close. And I believe the reason for that is the thermal management on this device isn't the best. So on the bottom over here, yes, we've got access to all the heat pipes and everything, but you can see that the air vents around where the fan should be, there aren't any proper air vents. So that could be one of the reasons, I'm not entirely sure, but it just reached throttling point quicker than both of the other two. You lost performance much quicker, and again, like I said, on the battery, which I'll touch on in a second, it just performed the worst. And then on gaming, these two were performing at similar FPSs. I just found it when I was playing my games, I just had a slightly better experience on the Acer. Now, linking onto the battery performance. Now, for those of you that do gaming on your machine, I will always advise you that you plug in your device when gaming, but you do find yourselves in those situations where, you know, you aren't plugged in and you still want to do some gaming. Also, while I say that, I want you to also take a disclaimer here that having your device plugged in all the time and playing games, if you don't set your battery up correctly on your devices, your battery will be deteriorating a lot quicker. So you do have to go into the settings of the battery and tell it how it's being used, whether it's being used while it's plugged in all the time, because if you don't do that, like I just mentioned, your batteries will die out a lot quicker. But on the battery test, I played games on these devices and I wanted to see how long they ran for. I've actually got all the results over here, so I'll quickly read them out to you. So whilst doing the battery test on the MSI, I managed to get 1 hour and 5 minutes out of the gameplay before I got a low battery warning, and then it died out on me at 1 hour 8 minutes. Now when a laptop dies out, that means it has a tiny bit of juice left for you to turn it back on if you needed to save some work or anything like that. But it only has a tiny bit of juice, we're talking under 10%, unless you set it to something else. In the battery testing while gaming, the MSI performed the worst. It only managed to get 46 minutes and 54 seconds. The low battery sign came up and then simply within like a couple minutes, the laptop died. So again, the throttling, the heat management, I just really think it's poor on this device. Now the G series, I'm expecting this one to perform the best because one, it has the latest processor in there, so it's going to be more efficient in the way that it manages its battery, and it's got a less powerful processor in there, so I was expecting it to last a lot longer, and it lasted whilst doing the battery test. I got a low battery warning at 1 hour 10 minutes, and then it died out at 1 hour 14 minutes. So even though the Dell did the best here, I'm going to give the first position to Acer because it's got a more powerful processor and it's got an older processor. So even though that the Dell done the best here, I'm going to give first position to Acer because it's got an older processor, meaning it's not as efficient, but it's also got a more powerful GPU. Taking all of that into consideration, the fact that it's achieved that 1 hour 8 minutes mark is pretty impressive still, and the thermals on it really good, which I'm happy with. It managed it very well. So I'm going to give first position to Acer, second position to Dell, and again third position landing with the MSI. Now heat management. This was an interesting, very interesting section because the MSI is a clear loser in this section, hands down. Like no matter what testing I've done to this device just performed the worst. I'm not hating on the brand or anything like that. I just don't think that this has been designed properly in terms of consideration for heat management. And in the testings that I've done, which is benchmarking, mining, gaming, 3D content creation, it was just the first one to always throttle out, to always give the fan extra work to do. And yeah, it just performed the worst. So this again, unfortunately, is getting last position. Now in second position, we're giving it to the Dell machine, and then the first position is going to the Acer machine. Now the reason for this is because the Dell, although pretty much kept up with the Acer and again performed sometimes better in scenarios, we have to remember that this has a newer processor and a less powerful GPU inside it. So at most occasions, the Dell was keeping cooler when it was put through stress, but the Acer wasn't too far behind. So I was really impressed with this Acer, to be honest. So again, first position, second position, third position. Now in terms of functionality, and this one's super easy because I'm gonna judge it based on what I think functionality is, and functionality for me is the connectivity that's provided on the devices and also the positioning of those connectivities and the extra bits of tech or extra bits of nuggets you get inside the machine to help out the user. And in last position, can you guess what it is? Before you guess what it is though, if you are enjoying the episode, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps me out, doesn't cost you a penny, and you'll be supporting a YouTuber trying to make it in this very heavily saturated industry, and I would really appreciate you if you could do that for me. So in third position, if you hadn't guessed it already, it's the MSI, and the reason that I'm giving it the third position is pretty simple. So for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you would know that when it comes to gaming devices, functionality for me lays in where the connectivities are and the extra bits of tech that you provide in the machine. So in terms of this laptop, you've got the power cable input on the side here, you've got your USB type A 3.0, and then you've got a 2.0 USB over here, which I don't see the point in anymore. You could have just put a 3.0 in. There's a cost saving measure, and we do have to remember that this is £100 less, but still, you've got another USB type A over here, you've got a headphone jack, USB type C, HDMI and Ethernet. The reason I don't like the ports being on the side is because I'm not sure if you can see my whole setup over here. I do a lot of hot desking as well, and when you have wires coming out from the side of your machine, it just becomes annoying. And I'm someone that uses a mouse a lot of the time as well, a dedicated mouse, or independent mouse, not the one built into the machine a lot of the times. And having those wires on the side is really frustrating in terms of mobility. So again, third position. In second position, it's going to the Acer. They do get one thing right, or they get a step closer to what I think is the right thing to do. They put the power input on the back here, but then they put all the other connectivities on the side again, which for me is something that, again, I've already explained to you, it's not something that I'm keen on. I prefer those components being on the back of the machine. The Dell in this position gets the first slot here because you've got two USB Type A's on the right hand side over here, so that means you can plug in your external mouse if you wanted to. And then on the left hand side you've got an Ethernet port. I would have actually liked to see this Ethernet port on the back. The permanent connectivities I'd like to see at the back are usually Ethernet ports, HDMI ports, and the power supply, maybe a USB or two. So the fact that we've got a Ethernet port here and a headphone jack on the side is a really good idea, not on the back, because you don't want to have the headphones wire going all around the device to come around to you. So headphone jack should be on the side, and then on the back you then have the USB Type C, which is a Thunderbolt, USB Type A, HDMI port, and then the power, which is the way a laptop should be set up. No matter what brand it is, that is the way your laptop should be set up. Now, there is a downside to having your device set up like this. It means you do get a bit of a longer device in terms of going from here to here, because it adds that additional length to it. But it's a small price to pay for functionality. So first, second, third. Now, portability. Portability for these devices is a tough one. And I think it might even you know what? Dell's gonna go last here because it's the heaviest. Well, it feels the heaviest at least. Yeah, Dell's definitely getting last position here because one, it feels the heaviest to me right now. I don't actually have the figures up right now, but it feels the heaviest to me. And the second reason is because, yes, the functionality here is something that I like, but it does add that extra bit of width or length to it. So just based on that, this is going to get the last position. And I think these two are going to share the first position because they are similar in weight and in terms of size as well. So if I actually put them on top of each other, you can see that they're very similar in size. However, if you put these two on top of the Dell machine, if I line them up front to front, you can see that the Dell sticks out that bit more. But again, that's the price you pay for functionality. All right, the results are in. I've calculated everything and it is a super tight, close race between two devices, and I'm pretty sure you can guess what those two devices are. So what we're gonna do is just, we're just gonna move this device out of the way because this wasn't even in the running at all. This had a total of 14 points in everything that I tested it in, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't actually recommend this device at all to anyone. Now, these two, there is a winner. However, the winner is by 1 point. And I can't give you or tell you which one to buy. Being a true tech enthusiast that I am, I can't actually tell you which one to buy. However, I can give you a suggestion of how you choose which one you should buy. So just so you know, in second position was... Hey, welcome back. Basically, my camera's had a bit of a malfunction, so I'm just going to continue recording from here. I've removed the MSI from the table because I had recorded everything already. I only realized that the camera malfunctioned afterwards when I decided to check everything over, so I'm just re-recording that part now. The MSI is off the table because at the end of the video I was recording last time, it got the lowest score. So in the ratings wise, when it came to functionality, it was the worst, and it got the most last positions throughout every single category that we was measuring in. So when it came to functionality, it lost. Functionality, the Dell won, the Acer came second. In terms of portability, the Dell lost and the Acer and the MSI came in at first position. So the final tally of the device was the MSI had 14 points and the Acer has 19 points and the Dell has 20 points. That 1 point difference does not mean the Dell is the clear winner, because it is certainly not so. It depends on what you're actually after from the machine, and you have to ask yourself a couple of questions before you decide which one you should go for. One of the first things I'd advise you to ask yourself is, are you going to watch any media content? I should really put my phone on silent. Are you going to watch any media content? Because if you are, then the Acer's terrible audio quality makes it something that's not worth purchasing if you are planning on watching any media content. However, if you're not planning on watching any media content on these devices, then it's a coin toss. It's a personal preference. It's a whatever. If portability is your key factor, and portability means quite a lot to you, this device is slightly bigger because of its functionality and all the ports being placed on the back, and it's also slightly heavier than the Acer, right? So very slightly. So that means you would go for the Acer if portability is a big factor to you. So ask yourself those relevant questions, and then you can decide between one of these two devices which one you should be going for. I will not recommend the MSI, even though it's £100 cheaper. If your budget is £1,000, I still wouldn't recommend the MSI. I'd say to you, save up another £99 and go for one of these two devices instead. Because honestly, the thermal management, the performance, and just in general, the device itself, it kind of deserves to be the last spot in this versus episodes that we're doing here. And as a true tech enthusiast, I can't tell you which one you should go for, because you need to ask yourself the questions of what you're going to be using the device for. Just remember, if it is media consumption, then the Dell is the clear winner. If it's portability, then the Acer is probably going to be the best choice for you. So that's the end of the episode. I hope you got everything that you needed out from it. If you haven't, then leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this video, then please do make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, it doesn't cost you a penny, and it really helps me out. Don't worry about pressing the bell icon. I don't want to bombard your feed. I just want to be in your feed. So if you see a piece of content that I release that you might want to watch, then you can watch it. Just remember, I'm a tech enthusiast, automotive enthusiast, and a gaming enthusiast. So I make content on all those areas. But majority of the time it is tech. Anyway, until the next video, I'm MIA.